Hi everyone, so today we're here to ask and answer one simple question: is Mike Thurston natty or not? For those of you who don't know Mike Thurston, he's pretty popular on social media. You know, he's a big fitness bodybuilder guy. He's got a big Instagram following, big YouTube following. And I did a fair bit of research for this video. You know, I looked through his Instagram, his YouTube, looked through all of his photos, trying to see if there's any evidence as to whether or not he's natural. But what I did not expect to find was that Mike is just literal human garbage. He's a terrible person. So Mike likes to wear fur coats. He likes to wear coyote fur and raccoon dog fur. So coyotes, of course, they're trapped. They use these traps that lock onto their feet or ankles. And of course, these coyotes suffer horrible, horrible pain when they're in these traps. Sometimes they can spend several days in these traps, and they also try to wiggle free, just adding to the pain and discomfort and misery they're going through. And then, you know, eventually the person who trapped them will come along and put them out of their misery. And then they'll be, you know, cut into pieces and made into a nice fur coat for Mike. And Mike also wears raccoon dog fur. It's very easily identifiable. I know he wears raccoon dog fur. Well, these raccoon dogs, they're usually grown on fur farms in China, and you would not believe the amount of cruelty that happens at these fur farms where these raccoon dogs are harvested. They are abused and mistreated in every way imaginable. I'm not going to show you the gruesome footage here, but you can look it up for yourself. There are some instances where you can see these animals literally being skinned alive because these fur farmers just don't give a crap about the well-being of these animals, and Mike's supporting that industry. So Mike likes wearing fur coats literally made out of dogs because coyotes are dogs. He likes trapping dogs in these traps that lock onto their ankles, chew up their flesh, and he likes shooting dogs in the face and then turning them into fur coats. And he also likes trapping animals into small, tight, confined cages, abusing them, and skinning them alive just so that he can have a nice fur coat. And look, this guy is successful, clearly makes a lot of money. He's got a big following on Instagram, YouTube. He lives in Dubai. You have to make a fairly decent living to live in Dubai, I'm sure. And he decided to spend around $1,000 just for a freaking coat that's made out of animal torture. So this guy's a piece of crap. I know this video is supposed to be about, you know, whether or not he's natty, but I could care less about that. I care more about whether or not he's a good person. And he's clearly not. So either Mike just likes to torture and kill animals just for his own personal pleasure, or maybe he's jealous of these animals because they have so much hair, whereas he doesn't. He's needed to have his hair transplanted. He's had to go on different drugs to prevent hair loss. So maybe that's why. He's just mad at these animals for having the hair that he can't have on his head. So I guess that's a good segue into this whole natty or not discussion. So one side effect of steroid use can be premature balding. Mike is fairly young. I think he's still in his 20s. He is going bald. He has experienced quite a bit of hair loss. Now, that's not necessarily a sign of steroid use. Plenty of dudes go bald in their mid-20s. It's pretty common, and he did mention that baldness does run in his family, so I don't think that's really evidence that he's on gear. But Mike is a pretty big dude. He looks like a guy who you'd expect to be on gear, and he is pretty comparable to other people who are also suspected of taking steroids. He's made a few videos with Matt Does Fitness, and a lot of people suspect Matt Does Fitness isn't natural, and he's about the same size as Matt. So does that mean he's on gear? Not necessarily. There are some people who just have a really, really impressive physique naturally just because their genetics are amazing. And there's no obvious sign of androgen use other than, you know, he's just a big guy. I've never seen Mike with any acne, although he does kind of have orangey skin. He has a bit of a Donald Trump complexion. And, like, no gynecomastia, no puffy nipples, nothing like that. The only thing that, you know, sort of stands out is his hair loss, but again, it's not really great evidence. A lot of dudes go bald in their mid-20s. He said it kind of runs in his family. Also, if you take a look at his physique, The way it's proportioned doesn't exactly scream steroids. He doesn't have shoulders that really pop out from the front. He doesn't have traps that like go up to his ears. A lot of steroid users, they have really built shoulders that just look big from every angle, and they also have really, really developed traps. That's where a lot of androgen receptors are. Obviously, he does have an impressive physique all around. He does have impressive shoulders, good traps, but he has like a really, really developed chest. His shoulders look impressive, from the side. From the front, they look a little flatter. And his traps, again, they're not like up to his ears. They're just well developed. So it doesn't scream steroid use. And if you take a look at his strength, what he lifts in the gym, again, nothing screams steroid use. Now, don't get me wrong, he is still a strong dude, but does he have superhuman strength? Is he outlifting every natural on YouTube? No, like far from it. So there's a video of Mike learning proper bench press technique with Mark Bell, and with a slingshot, he was struggling to get 2 reps with 315 on the bench. Now, granted, he was doing some training before he attempted this lift, so okay, maybe if he was totally fresh, he could get 3 or 4 reps with the slingshot. Now compare this with somebody who I consider natural, Christian Guzman. He had a training video where he was able to rep out 8 reps with 315 on the bench. So Mike isn't really outlifting other naturals on YouTube. If he was on gear, I'd expect, especially with how well developed his chest is, I'd expect him to be able to like outbench people like Christian Guzman. But he's not doing that. He's not really outlifting other naturals, at least not by a wide margin. The way he's structured and proportioned doesn't really scream steroid use, even though he is a big dude. I just expect him to be proportioned a little bit differently, and I don't see any signs of androgen use. He doesn't have traps that go up to his ears, overly developed shoulders, no acne, gynecomastia, a bit of hair loss, but a lot of dudes have that, and it runs in his family. And I think the smoking gun here is his progress over the years. So Mike actually did a transformation video where he showed all of his photos and how his training was progressing over the years. When he was 10 years old, he already had a fairly impressive physique for a 10-year-old. He had a fair bit of muscle mass, really good muscle tone, so I think right away you could tell he's just genetically gifted. Then he started weight training around 16, and he wasn't really taking things super seriously, but still, he already built a fairly impressive physique for a 16-year-old who's totally new to lifting. Really good muscle tone, decent amount of muscle mass, so he's kind of just naturally a big, lean guy. And then over the course of the next 3-4 years, just gradually gained more muscle mass, and it looks like the majority of his muscle mass was built in that time period. By the time he reached 2021, he pretty much peaked. That's where the majority of his muscle mass was built. And then from then on, he just made small incremental improvements throughout the years. And that is very indicative of a natural lifter. Most naturals, they build the majority of their muscle mass within the first 3 years of training. Then from then on, you only make small incremental improvements. And considering all of this evidence, I would have to say Mike Thurston is natty. Maybe that's a bit of a controversial opinion because, he is impressive looking. He does look like a dude who you'd kind of expect to be on gear, but tell me what you think in the comment section down below, and maybe you should also tell Mike to stop wearing fur, stop supporting the suffering and death of animals. That would be nice. And if you like this video, maybe consider supporting me on Patreon or through my website. I have some funding perks you may find interesting. If you're looking for clothing, then check out the Vegan Gains store. And if you're looking for online coaching, then check out Quality Gains. He offers customized meal and training programs. And if you click the link in the description, you can get a free ebook. And as always, keep making those vegan gains. So I know I already mentioned this, but I think this is important and it really bothered me. So while I was editing this video, I was looking through his Instagram again, and I noticed in this post, he's showing off his stupid fur coat, but he said this: protect your neck while wearing a dead animal around your neck. Are you the most selfish asshole on the planet? Do you only think of yourself? Again, I'm pretty sure this fur coat is made with Raccoon Dog, And raccoon dogs, they're farmed in China. They are just horrifically abused, and there's a very good likelihood that this animal, if it's a raccoon dog, it was skinned alive. So you paid to have an animal skinned alive for your stupid goddamn jacket. Why are you supporting this type of horrible abuse and glamorizing it on your Instagram? It's sick.